Okay, everybody, joining us today is the great Julian Mack. He is an activist and he is a candidate for the Toledo City Council. And I am so very pleased to have him. So welcome, Julian.
Happy to be here. Happy to be here, brothers.
I feel like I've officially made it big time since I was able to get you on the show. So to start off, are you seeking appointment to a district seat or for the election to an at-large seat?
So I'm seeking appointment, right? And I'm seeking appointment ideally at large. I think it makes a difference to represent, to have somebody with progressive beliefs to represent the entire city. However, I'm not ruling myself out of accepting a district position also. I mean, I think both are an honor, but I fully intend to seek an at-large position this time next year. And so really whatever capacity the Honorable Judge Pufferberger sees it best for me to be appointed to, I'm willing to accept. But I think we have worked hard as a community to make sure we have at-large representation. And I think there's a tendency to discourage Black folks from running at large, frankly. And I don't accept the notion that just because it's easier to, or I wouldn't even say it's easier, but just because it's, a kind of a shorter path to connect with Black voters as opposed to the whole city, say for districts 1 and 4, that's the path that is best for me, right? I think that it's important to have progressive views and represent the entire city, not just a part of the city that has a lot of Black folks. Right? I think that there's enough progressive white folks in our community that value the same type of ideals I do as well, and want representation with those progressive values as well. So I am seeking and kicking off my campaign now for at large. And I do realize that that's an uphill climb. I realize the struggle that a lot of first-time candidates have with that, and that's why we're getting started now.
So what do you feel are your qualities that makes you the best candidate? Because I know that there was something like 111 applicants for right now for the appointed positions. And of course, there will be those people that also run for next year's election. So what do you feel that you offer that makes you the best candidate above the rest of them?
One of my experience in Toledo, I've been in Toledo 33 of the 35 years of my life. And even those other 2 years I was around Toledo, I was going to school in Bowling Green, right? Many of the positive attributes about me I've learned from my community, and many of the negative attributes about me I've learned from my community. I've spent a lot of time in Toledo with a large cross-section of Toledoans. I'm somebody that's deliberately never been okay or satisfied with fitting in any type of one particular box. And through that diversity of experiences, I think gives me an opportunity to serve a diverse group of Toledoans. So that would be the first thing, right? Is my experience in living in this city and being, add to that, being engaged, right? I've been engaged in local politics since I was about 11 or 12 years old. I went to my first political rally It was actually the day before Bill Clinton accepted the nomination for president the second time around. I believe it was August 27th, 1996, at Promenade Park, which was my first political rally. And, I caught political fever, then. And I found a way to in some way, shape, or form, be engaged in the political process ever since then. So in high school, I would knock on doors for school levies. I think in '98 was the first campaign I volunteered on, which was Jack Ford for state rep. I'm pretty sure, going back some ways now, but yeah, that was Jack Ford for state rep. And I remember even, wearing the campaign shirt to school at a time when everybody was wearing FUBU jerseys. And I thought it was cool, and, but, from even on top of that, my college Democrats experience as president in 2006, right? I helped open and campaign for Sherrod Brown, and I think Ben Conham for county commissioner at that point in time, who was a very young county commissioner. At that point in time, I think he was 29 years old. We haven't seen anything like that since. So, there is political experience there. A lot of times people just know about my activism that I've been very involved in since 2014, but there's a long background of political engagement that I've had before then, right? And even with the working on the Obama campaign or the PAC that was connected to Obama's campaign in 2008 and 2012. I have a history of working in local politics of over 20 years, which is something not many 35-year-olds can say. On top of that is my activism experience. Here's the thing, is I was raised to be, now my mom comes from a Black radical tradition, right? Her freshman year of college was 1969, which I believe to be the greatest year of the 20th century. And there's a lot that happened that year. And so, she was one of the first Black RAs at BGSU, helped form the Black Student Union. And, from that is kind of where my lens and view comes from. But she, along with many others in that generation, were happy with a moderate Democrat president as long as he played the saxophone on Arsenio Hall. And my experience, after, say, 2008, life really began to hit and kick in. And I experienced some of the problematic policies of, the moderate Bill Clinton, right? And in many ways, I feel like I was treated as a super predator, and I was living in poverty, and the result of a feral war on drugs wreaked havoc on my life for being a weed smoker in college, right? Which a lot of folks do. And so in many ways, that radicalized me, right? And I think a lot of folks have, they kind of adapt to or adopt a political identity that may not be in alignment with their direct experiences. And I was like that at one point in time. So I understand that. But I think where my growth came from is when my political ideology matched the circumstances and conditions of my life, and connecting the dots of how all that could and can improve. And so that is where my fuel from activism came from, is realizing that there was a failure in both parties to address the material conditions of my life and so many other Black lives just like mine. And that there absolutely needed to be some organizing and some political action, as well as community building outside of just the voting booth, And so combining all of those experiences together, I think gives me a heart and a love for Toledoans, no matter what their social status is, their station in life. I love them because they are just like me and just like people in my family. And I have a heart for really trying to help them. And I think that's what makes me stand out a little bit.
Okay. So if you are elected and or appointed, what would you say are the top 3 issues that you want to take up during your tenure on the city council?
Yeah. So 3 issues that I've already been putting in work on already. Right. So since 2014, I think is my birth as an activist. I credit the seeds from the live streams of the protesters and Michael Brown really is what got me out on the streets. And since then, there's been legislation, right? And to also add on top of the last question, I've never served in an official capacity on city council, but my name is on 3 pieces of legislation that has passed already. And it's in 3 different areas. So safety reconstruction, environmental justice, and anti-corruption are the 3 areas. And I'll kind of give you the past, present, and future of each of them. Safety reconstruction, we know that we've had a failed war on drugs. We know that has disproportionately affected brown and Black and poor folks. And we know oftentimes that's been a war on weed. And so I think this was 2014, I partnered up with some people for the Sensible Toledo initiative, which decriminalized marijuana in the Toledo Municipal Code, I think up to 99 grams, right? And no fine, no time, I think was the slogan for that. And so that's actual legislation that passed. What I hope to do with that in the present, also the body cams, we were able to lobby for more body cams, which, I think is a good thing. But in the present and in the future, I think we need to take more radical action. If we look at the municipal budget, 84 million of our tax dollars, 1/3 out of every dollar is spent on policing. And, I think it's painfully obvious with the violence that we've seen over the past 2 weeks in Toledo, the police aren't keeping us safe, right? It's just not happening. And I wouldn't even say that it's all their fault, but the role and how we look at safety and crime prevention has to change. Throughout my lifetime, we have divested from school programs, from after-school programs, from sports, from community engagement, and we have invested in more expensive policing and militarizing of our police force. And crime isn't dropping, you know what I mean? And it's not making us safer as a community. Because the very nature of addressing that problem is it's attacking the symptom and not the root. And we'll never solve the problem if we're just addressing the symptom. And so I believe that we need to take a more holistic approach to safety. And that's going to require some investment and preventative measures in what causes crime. Because at the end of the day, we know one thing: hurt people. And so we have to start healing as a community to create a safer community. The second, environmental justice. The Lake Erie Bill of Rights was lauded and is groundbreaking legislation locally and globally. Right, establishing rights of nature we're just on the precipice of an entirely new movement that I think 100 years from now will look back on, the Lake Erie Bill of Rights that passed, I believe in 2019 as the beginning of something special. And so I was invited to the United Nations to speak with the Lake Erie on behalf of the Lake Erie Bill of Rights on the world stage. And when it comes to environmental justice, I think it's important we realize that here's the thing that people don't talk about, right? Is with an environmental activist, I don't see many Black folks in those circles, right? There's been a kind of a gentrification of work being done in environmental circles, right? And there's a lot of reasons and speculations as to why, but here's what I know at the end of the day, right? If you look at Hurricane Katrina, right? Even if you look at some of the, if you look at these floods that happened, right? Environmental harm, if you look at the water crisis here in Toledo, environmental harm has a disproportionate, greater effect on those on the margins: Black, brown people, poor people, older people, children. So if we don't make environmental justice a priority, it's going to have a greater impact on those that can least afford it. All right. And then on top of that, in the present, I think we need to do more to protect our children from lead. From lead, right? It's ridiculous. We're still having to deal with this issue. And then lastly, anti-corruption legislation. I was part of a citizen initiative, and I want to add, with each of these citizens initiative, it took a hell of a lot of work to get this in. Just to get it on the ballot, it takes about 7,000 signatures. And this is work that could have been done by City Council, but was not picked up on by City Council. So we, citizens of the community, took it upon us to get this legislation passed in spite of City Council, to put it in front of the people. And so Move to Amend is really a short for Move to Amend Citizens United, right? Which is the Supreme Court case that declared corporations as people, right? And really pops the top on a whole litany of issues with dark money in our political system. And so one of the things that does is every year, and we're working on this being done this year still, to make sure that that law that we worked so hard for in 2016 is upheld. But people testify each year in front of the City Council on the impact that money is having on politics, right? And so in 2016, I helped that pass. And now I think we need to move further. And I think it's imperative that we move towards publicly funded elections. Look, we got a problem on the local level, the state level, and the federal level of corruption. It's directly connected to, in every single one of these instances, they've used examples of, oh, it's just campaign contributions. Oh, I was just fundraising. I don't care if you're talking about Tyrone Riley, Larry Householder, or Steve Bannon. All those things are in common. It only makes sense for us to change the culture. And the only way that's going to happen is when we take away the really the finance, when we change the culture and we take away the impact that money has on our elections. Just because you have more money doesn't mean that your voice should be louder, or you should have a more impactful impact on a politician in regards to their election, right? We have to level the playing field, and the best way to do that is with publicly funded elections. And then lastly, on top of that, I think on a state level, and this isn't really the city council, but I know that there is a movement to move more towards ranked choice voting. We see that there are increasing, our politics is becoming increasingly polarized, not just between Democrats and Republicans, but even different segments of the party, right? You have your moderate Republicans, you have your Tea Party Republicans, and now there's even further right. You've got these QAnon far-right Republicans within the Democratic or within the left. You know, you have your moderate Democrats, you have your progressives, and then even further left than that, where you have the socialists and even communists. And I think that we are doing a terrible job at accurately capturing a clear picture of the electorate, right? Where we're just saying, oh, it's red, vote blue no matter who. What the hell does that mean, right? Like, it matters. It matters, right? Where one stands are they for expanding health insurance? Are they for Medicare for all, right? Like, there are different shades of blue, and that makes a difference. And so we have to find a way we have to fix our democracy. Right now it's broken. And I think you see, people know that. That's why you see the low voter turnout rates, and why half of people even bother to vote on a high turnout election in the first place. So that's my 3-point platform. I know it took a minute, but I've been thinking a lot about it, and there's work that I've already done, and I hope to build upon that.
Okay.
All right, Julian, in your opinion, because there's a lot of opinions about what the actual job of city council is. Some people believe that a city council person should be a cheerleader for the city, help bring and attract new small businesses and corporations and help with the growth, things like that. Other people believe that they should be out on the front lines of everything. They should be showing up and visible in all places at all times. And then some people believe that their job is just to simply sit behind the dais and legislate. So in your opinion, what is the job of a city councilman, and how do you best believe you'll be able to accomplish that?
I think it's to represent the people, simply put. So represent the people's ideas, represent the people's best interests, be that in a business sense, or be that in socioeconomic, social justice. I mean, I think in a myriad of different issues. I think part of the reason why we see America burning is because Americans aren't heard. So we have a democracy, or what's supposed to be a democracy. So why aren't people being heard? Right? They don't have representation that speaks how they feel, and it is making those adequate changes to impact the material conditions of their life. So to try to give you as a concise answer as possible, the job of city council person is to adequately represent the community in a way that can best manifest the material conditions of their life on a local municipal level.
Okay, great. So question, the current salary for city council is set at $27,500 annually. Also, the current makeup of city council is for every 3 council members, they share 1 staff person, which is not very consistent with other larger municipalities in the state of Ohio and in the nation. And there was recently a study done, I believe it was by the Chamber of Commerce, that basically said council needed to increase its own funding. There are some people who believe that some of the recent corruption on council is in part due to the low salary, and that's also a reason why younger people like yourself really aren't attracted to serve, because simply put, with that low of a salary, that's below poverty level, and you really can't make ends meet. So I guess it's a two-parter question. Are you for an increase in council salary and staffing? And then 2, if you are appointed or elected at council's current salary, what do you plan to do for supplemental income?
Good question. So yes, the yes and yes. So the first, here's the thing. All right, we are looking at. I think that it's a little bit more complicated than just a simple yes, though. Going into looking at next year, right, and we're looking at having some real budgetary issues with on a municipal level, right? Given everything that's happened with COVID-19, I think that I think we have to do more to put the people's interests first, right, and make sure that we balance our budgetary priorities and the people's budgetary priorities first. So that must happen first and foremost, because there's gonna, I don't know, man. We're looking, I already talked about we need to restructure our priorities, but there's a chance that the pot is going to get a lot smaller, just in reality. And so I don't necessarily feel right making it a high priority to reward the people that are supposed to be serving the people first. I think the people should come first, right? And so I would hesitate to immediately look for a raise, especially if I haven't done anything yet, right? That being said, though, we have a very talented city and a beautifully diverse city, and I can't say that Toledo City Council has always represented that brilliance and that talent. And I think a big part of that is people don't want to be bothered with the difficulty of being under the public spotlight for that amount. Now, I think that it does take kind of a person that prioritizes service first, and but yeah, I am for raising it, but I think they're raising the general salary of, it's a full-time job and it's paid part-time, right? I don't think city council people should be exploited for their labor, just like I don't think anybody else should be exploited for their labor. I don't think anybody should get paid part-time wages for full-time work, city council included. But we have to make sure that the people we're serving are adequately getting their fair share before the people of the service do that first. Now, as far as my supplemental income, I've been poor, so this isn't anything. So frankly, $27,000, I think, is about a $5,000 increase from what I made last year, because I've been poor, right? So I've been getting exploited for my labor. I'm a poor activist, and these activist checks, I very rarely, if ever, gotten an activist check. right? So my work ethic comes and is modeled after the work that my father does, right? My father, Leo Mack, is um, works full time at Chrysler. He fixes the machines when they break down, and he also owns his own business, a sprinkler fitting company. Fun fact: every last sprinkler in our Toledo train station was installed by my father. So what I grew up watching him do was work full time and work in a small business as well, and somehow balance those two out. And so I work my full time job, and in my free time, I do my activism, which sometimes means I have to work overnight and things like that. As far as another supplemental income, I'm looking at doing some substance abuse counseling, right? Because I think
Okay.
that's where that's something that's really needed in our community, and that's something that I have a real heart and passion for. So yeah, that's kind of. I hope that answers your question.
It does. It definitely does. All right.
I want to be a 21st century candidate and run a 21st century campaign. I think that there's some things that we should have learned from our predecessors, and I hope to put that in place. The one is that, I don't. I've been doing a lot of reflecting after the death of John Lewis, and also a lot of reflecting post primary about Obama's presidency and Bernie's two failed runs at the presidency, and what to do with what I perceive to be a lot of progressive energy, and a failure at identifying a target for that energy, right? And so I want to take this to the next level, and in my experience organizing, right, the goal is to organize yourself out of what you do, right? So if you effectively organize well enough, there won't be a need for that activist role anymore, right? I think a big problem that we see in general with the, dare I say, nonprofit industrial complex is that there's a lot of people in these positions that may make six figures a year that have no interest in actually solving the societal ills that exist because they profit off of holding a position that's supposed to address them. That's a problem. And we're entrusting people to solve these problems that aren't as connected with them as I think they portray that they are. So here's what I want to do. I want to organize and continue to organize myself out of my activist position. I have had some failures as an activist, right? Where I haven't always known where to direct the energy, who to put pressure on, and how to most effectively put pressure on those people. I hope to use the knowledge that I have from, to quote Hamilton, being in the room where it happens, to empower other activists, right? And so what you will see on my website, if you go to macforus.com, is a place to sign up for what we're calling Mathtivists, right? And listen, it is very reminiscent, and what I want it to be like is a grassroots version of all of the volunteers that we had on the Obama campaign. I want it to be a grassroots version of Bernie Bros and Bernie women, you know what I mean? And I want it to be, or the K-Hive. Let's just go there, the K-Hive, right? And I want people, because there is a level of engagement with younger people and millennials that is there. I know it. You've seen it, and I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of folks get frustrated around election time because that's the only time that political figures engage with them.
Right.
And so I want to create a coalition of people who are ready to be engaged all year round throughout the political process. And those will be activists. And hopefully we can accelerate the change. I don't plan on being on city council for three terms or all of that. I want to make room for the next person. I want to help mentor the next person. Right? Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm gonna just leave it like that. Okay, now so yeah, it's gonna take a collective effort from our community to get this progressive change that we want to have happen. And so I want to, from the very beginning, get people engaged in that. All right. So that's the one piece, activists. That's how you can volunteer. If you care about your community and you want to do something about it, go to Mac for Us and sign up for that. Now, the second piece is I believe that, unfortunately, the reason why we see such low voter turnout in local elections is because people don't know what the hell is going on.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, now they do this year. I think that's why there's a higher level of engagement and why 125 people apply, because it pierced into the collective consciousness of our community. But sooner or later, the dust is going to settle and things are going to, quote unquote, go back to normal. And when it does, people are still going to need to be informed. And so one of the things I think is a responsibility of a city council person is to keep people informed. And so I have a spot for a newsletter, right, where I want, whether you support Julian Mack or not, I want to help keep you informed about what's going on. And so that's another thing that I want to do. Also, listen, I'm not taking, I don't think I've ever plainly said this clearly, but there is a big local influence on local elections that I am not taking any money from. I am not taking any money from any police unions. We've seen a complete failure on our local officials to adequately address issues of police reform, to adequately be able to hold our municipal officers accountable for their actions. And I think that there is a connection with the money they receive from police unions. So I'm not taking any money from any police unions, period. So I am running a people-driven campaign, right? And for the people, by the people. And so I want to be accountable to the people. I'm not taking money from any of those places. And so I do need your help with fundraising, right? Well, I want to get rid of this part of the campaign. I believe the person with the best ideas should win the election, right? And I'm going to do everything I can do to change that in the future. But for now, I do need money to run this progressive campaign because there are people that don't want to see a progressive vision and future for Toledo. So you can donate by going to macforus.com. You can be a monthly donor. Right now, the average donation that we've received is $26.70, right? And we've had people from all different backgrounds donate to the campaign over these first 3 weeks. And I absolutely love it because I know it's people who've never donated to a campaign before. Like I got a campaign donation today on Cash App for $5, right? If you type in Mac for Us in Cash App, you can donate to the campaign. So I believe that the reason why I got involved in activism is I believe that it was important for me to be an active participant in my own survival and an active participant in my community's flourish. And that's exactly what I hope people do with this campaign, is they can become an active participant, not just stand on the sidelines, but be an active participant and making Toledo a better city, and subsequently be an active participant in seeing Toledo glow up and being the best city possible. So thank you for letting
Thank
me be part
you,
of it.
Julian.
I was happy to
Thank
be
you,
here.
thank you, thank you.